I'm starting.
Well, I want to have one recording for the Mountain Express and then a separate recording for this.
I did, so to totally mess it all up, I haven't questioned anything. I read your presentation, Jeremy, but you specifically point us to this, the Montana. Is it Bozeman?
Yes.
What should I be looking for? And you cited this obviously as something you think is a good document. Is there something in particular I should be looking for in there when I read that?
What I really liked about their report, and I read a bunch of them, Breckenridge, Park City, other peers, what I really liked about the Bozeman report was that it was very specific on the routes that we want to do, and here's what it's gonna cost, as well as both operating and capital costs. And especially because you also saw in that presentation, you know, even if we just did the 4 top level things that I want to do tomorrow, we're looking at roughly $1.6 million a year. Our budget's only a $3.2 million a year budget. So like, that's a huge deal for us. And so I just think it's really important that this report articulates very clearly what we want to do and how much it's going to cost. A lot of the other 5-year reports out there get very strategic in nature, especially if you read someone's like RAPTA's, it reads more like a financial prospectus than it does a transit plan. And so that's why I like that.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're on to the next one. So next item is also work session and it is community grants. Tiffany.
Well, as I kind of said in my memo, seems like we're still not happy with community grants. And I don't know if that's everybody's not happy or if it's just a couple of voices that aren't happy. But I want you guys to be happy with this program, proud of this program, and I just need direction from you guys on what to do.
What's our annual budget?
For the program, last time we did 2% of our income or our budget, which was about $130,000. And that was just, you guys, that's what Crested Butte does. We picked that number that you guys could do what you want with that too.
Any chance you all would consider starting with what a cap would look like and working off of that?
Can I ask one question
Yeah.
first? Do you by chance have the average amount of the grant lately?
Of what the average amount we gave to individuals.
Yes,
If you give me a minute, I'll get that for you.
I'm going where you're going.
Yeah,
So while she's looking that up, maybe along the lines of where you're going, I think it was Avon. I looked at, you know, the links that Tiffany included, and so I think Avon's budget for their community grants is 120K. Their overall budget is $59 million. So just as sort of a,
you're saying we're cooler.
we're getting as a percentage of our budget, we're giving away a lot more. So that's.
Yeah, that's cool.
We don't make 59 million?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm just gonna round up. I'm just gonna round up, but it's roughly $12,000. $11,980. You
That's a
gave
lot.
away 131,000 and change, and there was 11 applicants, I believe.
that's a lot more than I thought it was.
It's lower than I thought it was, so.
No, that 11,000 is a lot more. I thought we're talking like 5,500.
Oh, I see what you,
Yeah,
you thought the average grant was about
Yeah.
5,500?
yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like 50 or 20, so
Yeah.
I'm glad that we had.
And they were kind of all over the place. We had some really low ones, and we also had some high ones.
I think I just remember the low ones, yeah, like the food bank or whatever, yeah, it was like 3,500 or something.
Yeah, GC staff, I just asked for their check. They were 4,000
Yeah.
versus,
And what center of the art for the arts get?
That was an ad tax for food and wine.
yes, we didn't do anything for Center for the Arts.
If am I guessing? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Well, you know, whatever this
Yeah,
thing was.
to me, I think having a cap makes sense. Personally, I know I rarely recommend guardrails, but in this case, I think some metric is will get out of control, and I'd hate to see it. Roman brings up some points in some of the notes that he mentioned that I think are good points. That, you know, his concern was one, floodgates opening and everybody just going nuts. The next grant cycle is in September. that right?
September, October, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Would-
So we
would-
have a little time to.
You guys have time, and if I have to push it off because you guys aren't ready yet.
If we can't be ready yet, I'm resigning. Like, then we get, we're exceeding position in council and we're done.
So, so Steve, can I ask you, you're looking at a cap. What if I was to suggest just a grant cap per applicant, let's say 10 grand
For a year, or,
per applicant? Per cycle.
that's kind of what that's what I was thinking.
Or were you thinking, well, I thought you were thinking maybe like putting $130,000 cap overall.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking the individual grant cap.
Okay,
like
yeah.
$7,500.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love,
with you on that. I'm with you
I
on
love that.
Well, again, I don't know if you read,
And I haven't even talked to you about it yet, but
well, and one of the things that Roman mentioned that, that's stuck in my head is that it's like the more, I think in his mind, the more you give away, the more scrutiny is needed. So we've been moving towards more scrutiny, right? Like, we're giving away this money, we gotta be guardians of the taxpayer dollars, and so we're asking all these questions, making them jump through all the hoops, and I think that's a solid way to be. On the other hand, if it were smaller amounts, maybe we could, let go of the reins
a little bit.
a little bit and have less scrutiny. So that was one of the points that Roman made that I thought that like I said, kind of stuck in my head.
I don't.
Yeah,
I
That's the way to
don't
carve
see-
this up.
Yeah,
I don't see why, those would necessarily be mutually exclusive,
and that's, and
approaches.
They're not, just a feeling though,
Do both.
just again, someone's coming in at, I want $5,000 for this. Okay, well, somebody else says I want $50,000 for this, and so I think it would be natural to sort of ratchet up your scrutiny and your questions for the 50K versus the 5K. Again, it's just throwing it out there. And I don't want to skip to the end or anything, but what do you all think about the community foundation administering? Kirsty did you guys see that part at the end of Tiffany's?
Essentially, then we would have a cap, we just.
It could be,
give them a
it could
lump
be,
sum.
it could be in combination with all of those things. Sure, we could give it to the community foundation and say you will not give anybody, any single applicant more than 10K. Here's the budget for the entire program, it's 100K or it's 120K.
So-
Whatever we pay, we obviously have to pay them a percentage to, is it 5%?
I don't know what.
I think it's
the what there is.
5%.
So the scrutiny then shifts from the individual applicant to the community foundation.
Well, yeah, then we would just bring the community foundation in front of the council and then we poke holes in them. No, I'm kidding.
no, I mean, but we
It would,
No,
it would create
I'm
some
just kind of laying
separation.
out, the operational path shift.
I think the upside to it is it would create a little space between the applicants and our town government that
I like
have sort of a
space.
different. And the community foundation, that is that's what they do. I mean, that's their business.
That's their job.
Well, it is, for us, it's this side thing we do a couple times a year.
I
So,
like,
well, yeah, I just wanna make sure it's in the
outsourcing.
conversation. Cause it's something that I've talked with Tiffany and Carlos.
What do you guys think are the drawbacks of utilizing the community fund?
Less control.
yeah, I mean, we're giving up control as to who would ultimately get it.
And inevitably, they're gonna, if we did that, they're gonna give money to somebody and there's gonna be counselors or the whole council is gonna be like,
oh,
what was that? And then,
Well, and it also separates us from our constituency.
I think it's both a pro and a con.
but a lot of these people are our constituency,
That's true,
what to
too.
say.
That's true too. They're not necessarily residents of Mount Crested View. They
Yeah,
operate a
exactly. They're
business
just,
or a church.
Yeah, I mean, the money we give to adaptive, right? I mean, they're not our constituents, the users of that.
Yep,
But adaptive is a great big part of the community,
yep.
so.
One of the thoughts I have here is they're managing an independent taxpayer fund of ours that's allocating. And then they also run their own grant cycles. I wonder how they're balancing when they have two applicants, if they go,
Let's put these in the Mount CB file. and keep our
Correct.
other- yeah,
and it
that's a
gives
good
us
point.
flexibility to manage our grants in a different way.
Yeah.
Well,
Wouldn't
does
it
it
be more
matter to
beneficial
us?
to one of the parties over the other?
Yeah.
Does it really matter to us, you know, if we're going to, you know, allow them based on their expertise, their proficiency, whatever, you know, evaluation we're going to give to them on. You know, at some point, you just go, you have to let it go.
Is your algorithm changing? It's going on. Some renters YouTube. I agree, and I support all of your sentiments. So I'm not for it, it's just a concern that pops in my head that is worthy of addressing, but they are a fantastic organization. They're great in a million aspects, so.
So that idea obviously needs further exploration.
Yeah, and I just wanted to see if it was even, you know, if it's a non-starter, then.
Oh, it's not a non-starter from my perspective.
I'll just recognize too, that I feel like, you know, as a council, we've had this tension between it seems like we all wanna let it go, but then at the moment we let it go, then we hear something, they will claw that back. Dig down on it, and so, you know, I feel like we kinda gotta pick one or the other, and so I guess that's what I see as a pro of the community foundation and the pro part of the separation is that, we would let go and we would have less, you know, we let go, but then we come back and we do these things where then we sift through, and I think that gets everybody digging back in. And so the community foundation would be a more thorough
off.
letting go, I think.
And then they'll come in for the conversation and then they'll quit after the first
I
cycle.
will quit after the first
And
time.
then with the actual.
But at least we were spared one cycle.
That's right. I think it represents really strong community partnership too. So, it needs further time, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
They are the professionals when it comes to grants.
Yeah,
They're all very, very high-end professionals,
and
very astute.
could you see like us turning something down and then them going to community foundation and then them get. Like we turn it down at admissions tax for some reason, because maybe they didn't submit their reports on time. It's like, hey, you're banging for a year, right? But then they go to community foundation, they get $8,000 anyways, you know, something like that.
And what I like with community foundation, no late, no more, whatever you called it. If it's not turned on time, it's not turned in on time. And then one thing to think about is the community foundation does give monies, they don't really control what the applicant uses them for, so it goes to operating funds.
Yeah. Which we did last round, didn't we?
We did last round, but it sounded like some weren't happy with that, so as long as you're all comfortable with the funds going to operating.
Well, I really appreciated your background and your memo for this, because that helped me understand the trend, and I get it, why it's good. Other people are struggling with the same thing, right? Like, gosh, we'd really just like to give you some money, and like, here we are at minute number 47, talking about, you know, where $2,000 of this budget is going and all that, so.
Yeah, Amy grabbed my ears, I was actually walking up to work, and, when I really thought about it, I'm like, so Adaptive is paying you money to manage all these grants and all these individual pieces when you could be much more effective at your job and get Adaptive more bang for their buck if these funds just went to general operations. So that's kind of what hit home with for me. How much time she spends, okay, this money can only be used, for this, and then this money can only be used for that, trying to manage all that.
Yep. And it made me, so I went down the rabbit hole of like more scrutiny and all that, like we could have a trusted. We could have a trusted list. Your report talks about that, you know, we're giving a nonprofit money, but we're saying they can't use it for operating funds. And so it's sort of begs, do we trust them or to do the right thing with the money or not? So it's like, if we trust them to do the right thing with the money, then that would end the inquiry about operational and all that.
Can I throw in, I like to just set a cap. Drop some of the current rails and requirements we have for a tape that takes time from people's plates, both on Tiffany's side, which is why community fund, I think, makes sense, and just town staff bandwidth, and that's kind of where I'm thinking about with that partnership.
Which is the whole other side benefit we haven't talked a bunch about yet. Yep.
Totally. So to me, there's bandwidth on all the parties involved, so I dig that component. But, just as my train, what was it, again?
Cap.
Yeah, cap and cutting red tape. This should be pretty simple. These are, everybody knows, almost every organization that applies. If there's somebody new, community fund knows every nonprofit in the valley for the most part. So the more I'm talking through this, the more that kind of does make sense. So, yeah, the more, the less requirements we can require from an organization, the better. For this, ad tax is a different beast, and I think
It
that's,
is a different beast.
but this is just like, it's a community building, how I see it.
Yep. And it's sharing some of our good fortune with the community. I do like the cap. Well, I do like the cap having a relation to our sales tax revenue.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I'm open if there is a.
We're talking about two different caps.
I know, we're talking about the whole program.
Program, yeah.
And that, I was fine with 130, but if we're looking at this and from a comparative perspective and going, hey, maybe there's a more fiscally conservative approach to start the program at 100, and maybe that grows up to, maybe it's 1.8%, then it goes up to 2.4 based on. a certain
Or we
growth
did
factor.
a COLA advance.
There you go, and then get a small business line, really good. So I'm totally open to all those numbers. But I did 7,500 popped in my head because that's 17 grant applications. And then we have a little change on the top.
Yeah.
So 17 is like, that's a lot of, if we had 11 last time and then the grant. And then this gets out and starts to get publicized more, like, what are we gonna get, 20? You could almost feed the whole program up with a maximum cap.
And again, just to go back to the community foundation, when there's 20 applicants, but there's only money for 17, they're the ones that turn 3 away, not us.
That's
Oh.
nice. I mean,
God, we're off the hot seat.
Well, as doing the jobs that we do, we're in the hot seat a lot, so I'm not afraid of the hot seat. I'm just trying to make it fair.
It doesn't totally remove you from the hot
It does
seat.
not, yeah.
If they don't like, who are they gonna
Sure,
come to?
sure.
Feel like we're all in agreement on a lot of high level concepts. How deep did we want to go in this meeting relative, like, because again, Roman brought up some points relative to gaps in need for organizations. You guys see metrics that would be involved relative to avoiding some of the stuff Roman mentioned, where somebody who's hyper funded is getting an equal amount as somebody who's not, who's highly underfunded, or should that even be a conversation point in the granting process?
See, I really,
Well, certainly a philosophical.
well, and I really struggle with that
That's
one,
for A-bar, I will take it up on it.
because then it seems to me if you use those things that you're talking about, like somebody who's high funded and low funded, but if the high funded is doing tremendous work,
Then why not?
Exactly.
then like,
Usually very complicated,
And,
it's an extra process.
and tremendous work defined by,
well, defined by us. Well, let's.
Everyone will.
Let's use adaptive, adaptive as an example. They are well funded, but they're also doing incredible work, and they're using that, like, I don't know if you guys read the email.
Yeah.
But, a cost of a 900, a lesson for one person costs $900, and they are selling that lesson for $95.
Because they're subsidized, yeah.
Because of, and so that, to me, that's an example of they are very well funded, but look what they're doing with the money.
I would pose that, and when I first thought about that was, I wouldn't want to grant money to any organization that is cash flow negative. Right, that has negative cash flow. Because then we're giving them money,
That's the other thing, yeah.
we're giving them money so they can stay in business. To me, that's not a a viable use, right? You have to demonstrate that you can run your business nonprofit, whatever it is, your service, right? At least break even, you know, as a nonprofit or something like that, but don't be
Don't
$6,000,
reward failure.
don't be $10,000 in the hole and.
Well, that could qualify as RTA. I think housing.
No, that's your point.
Um, Yeah, I'm pretty good with that, for the most part. It seems like there's a little bit of a gray area, because there are some nonprofits that just roll really tight in, so it could be minus $7,000 on the year on an operating budget of $1 million. Is that, to me, I'm fine, I'm like, wow, you drove $1 million down to that close, I'm actually more impressed by that metric. I wonder if we'd have to look at kind of.
Well, it could be something like, you know, and in your case, hey, maybe they had a capital expense or something that year, but the previous years they were fine. But if it's like 3 years in a row was minus 8,000, minus 10,000, minus 8,000. It's funny.
That means we're giving twice as hard.
Well, it would inevitably donut hole somebody too, and be like, you have too much money, you on the other hand don't have enough.
Yeah. And you guys, how the?
Well, you couldn't get accused of discrimination.
Yeah.
Going back to this component though, with giving the same reward to two differently funded entities. Is there a potential, again, we're trying to cut red tape, not create it, is there a potential just to look at operating budgets, which are required on all these grants currently, federal? You just look at operating budgets and you just put them into tiers based on those budgets, and those tiers qualify them for a different max cap. So if my operating budget is 5 million plus, then the max grant I could ask for would be 2,500. But if I'm only at 750 or below, then the max grant I can ask for is 7,500. And that would kind of create two different tiers so that you
Oh,
are, even if somebody's doing great work, we can still reward that with the dollar value. But we also want to try to help boost some of those other small organizations. It seems like it might be
Is that a value ranking that would best be left for the Valley Fund?
Well, so here's another modifier of that I think we've talked about before, but I personally didn't like it very much, but I did, Tiffany, read the other examples that you sent me, and one of them, I forget which town it was, but one of their criteria is if you got funds the previous year, no funds this year. And I assume the reason they did that is to keep to address the concern that we've had all along, which is that we don't want to become a line item in somebody's budget, right? Like the 50K I get from Mount CB is the way I'm keeping my organization afloat. And so that's a really good way to keep that from happening, because if you got money this year, you're not getting it next year. So whatever you're getting the funding for can't really be an ongoing, you know what I mean? It's kind of a one-off. I also noticed that the other folks have seem to have just sort of a more broad criteria for what qualifies and what doesn't, and have much less detail than we've been asking for. I say that, it seems like some of the other places, at least reading their website, seems like they've gotten closer to what we're trying to achieve, which is less red tape and oversight and all that.
Are you sharing all of this as an argument for just turning this over?
No, I'm honestly, you all hear my same joke every time, that it seems like one of the hardest things we do on this council is give away money. You know, those meetings, the ad tax meetings, the community grants meetings, like, those are rough.
I love giving away money.
And I do too, that's the other thing, it just seems like it should be easier.
I don't mind giving it away, it's just being responsible.
Well, I'm sure they have accountability for it. We would still be providing guidelines to them in some capacity.
Yeah, and I think we could put whatever, as long as we didn't say like, we want you to use our rubric or whatever. But if we gave general guidelines, like obviously it's gotta be within Mount Crested Butte and some other basic things, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
within Mount Crested Butte or within the North Valley?
Again, whatever thing we put
It
on
would
it.
have to benefit the
Benefits, yes.
citizens of
Yeah.
Mount Crescent.
And I
Yeah.
asked, well, I just asked that because for the most part, I mean, other than adaptive, whenever you guys give money, it benefits the north end of the valley.
Yeah, generally.
I don't necessarily wanna fund trout fishing expedition, out in Taylor, or like anywhere out there. Or Mills or something, like, to me, I do see a value
Yeah.
in keeping it.
Yeah.
Impacting our community,
Yeah.
not keeping it up here, but.
And in reality, a lot of it is valley-wide, if you think about what we've given, the food pantry, and I know we've put, conditions on that we want them to focus on Mount Crested Butte, but again, let's be realistic, right? Their budget is their budget, and so we're to some extent helping the organization as a whole, it's not just.
So in general, are you all five of you in favor with starting to work with the community foundation? I mean, I've had one like email exchange with Lauren, just to get an idea. But I'm happy to sit down and really have a conversation with her. And then the next step after I sit down and do that would be to bring her in here for a work session.
Yeah.
If that's the route you guys want to go with the community foundation.
You don't even have to do a cycle. That work session.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll start, I'll have some more conversations with her, kind of iron out some of the details that I've heard you guys talk about, and then bring her in for a work session. And then after that, you guys can decide if yes, you want to go with that, or you want to do your own thing again.
Okay. And, we got a little more time, but we want to give us a break, but since we do have a few minutes, anything else? I know we talked about a cap, like per request cap, like overall budget cap. You all have
Both.
both.
I kind of like the.
Overall and maximum.
Per hour.
Percentage not to exceed.
Yeah, but maybe like $10.
I had a thought in my
Way
brain,
more,
but now-
way more.
Well, I think we can
I
get,
think five is too low.
I think we can come to a number, I think just open to the concept or interested in the concept would be enough.
Yeah.
To be honest, Lauren will have a ton of input.
She will have a lot of information.
On some of these, Mark.
Yeah.
And it's better not to walk into it with a, totally made up mind. I think, just will come to.
Yeah. I agree with Steve though, Lauren will be a good,
Yeah,
she'll be
absolutely.
able to help us with some of this stuff.
They are, and they help people who are applying for grants. They take a lot of time to work through issues they're having, challenges with the way they're writing grants, stuff like that, that does consume quite a bit of bandwidth. And so that would be another way I think that it's benefiting the applicants while at the same time freeing up our.
Yeah, we could
And then-
realize we could get the 5% that we pay the community foundation back, we could get that back in staff time, probably.
Yes.
Probably true.
Yeah.
Or more.
And we do have our ATAX work session next meeting, so that'll probably just reinforce this.
And why can't, and why can't we get them too?
What's that?
Check my calendar, and
Yeah.
make
If
sure,
only you could zoom in.
make sure I'm gonna be here for that.
Okay, is there anything else you guys want to throw out about community grants?
Unless you have something,
I don't,
all right.
there's be a nice.
Go a little break.